Welcome to Fresh Talk News Channel. Today, we bring you a powerful and thought-provoking update from the heart of the Vatican. As cardinals from around the world gather in Rome to elect a successor to Pope Francis, the Catholic Church finds itself at a crucial crossroads. This moment isn't just about choosing a new pope, it's a major turning point that raises an important question: should the Church move toward change or remain committed to tradition? From the outside, the cardinals may seem divided, almost like political parties during an election. Some lean towards progress and reform, while others are firmly rooted in conservatism. Much like the ideological divides we see across the world today, many conservative leaders in the Roman Catholic Church had strong disagreements with Pope Francis during his papacy. Meanwhile, liberals around the globe often admired him for his compassionate and inclusive approach. But unlike typical political divides, the lines between conservatives and progressives within the Vatican are much more complex. One key example is Pope Francis' deep commitment to helping migrants and the poor, a value that doesn't easily fit into traditional left or right categories. In fact, caring for the vulnerable has always been at the heart of the Church's teachings. So, what's really at stake here? According to political theologian Anna Rowlands from Durham University in England, the decision the cardinals make will essentially be a referendum on Pope Francis' legacy, a legacy of openness, dialogue, and inclusivity. She explains that Francis understood the dangers of polarization and believed in creating space for disagreement. He saw dialogue as essential, even if it meant tension. The real danger, she warns, is if the Church chooses one ideological side completely, closing the door to discussion altogether. Now, let's talk about the deeper issue behind the next pope's election: decision-making. Who really deserves a voice in shaping the future of the Catholic Church? Pope Francis often emphasized that practicing Catholics, including women and members of the LGBTQ community, should be part of the Church's decision-making process. He invited everyday believers to join bishops in meetings known as synods to openly discuss controversial topics, but this inclusive approach faced resistance. Many conservative church leaders prefer returning to more centralized authority. Miriam Dignan, executive director of the Wijngaards Institute for Catholic Research, said the question now is whether this openness can survive, or whether some leaders will try to roll it back. Another major point of division is over who should be welcomed into the Church. Should it be a community that embraces everyone, even those who don't strictly follow Church teachings? Or should it only accept those who adhere rigidly to doctrine? Father Igbankianmegi Orabator, dean of the Jesuit School of Theology at Santa Clara University, explains that this is where much of the tension lies. Some see the Church as a perfect and closed society, he says, while others see it as a big tent, open and welcoming to all. Now let's talk about the role of women in the Church. Just 2 years ago, Pope Francis made history by allowing women to vote in major bishop meetings. Last year, he postponed a decision on whether women could be ordained as deacons, a role that would let them preach and officiate weddings, baptisms, and funerals. While he expressed strong support for giving women more leadership opportunities in the Church, he stopped short of endorsing their inclusion in the official Church hierarchy. Still, in many parts of the world, especially where priests are in short supply, women already do much of the ministry work. Some conservatives fear that if women are ordained as deacons, it could eventually lead to them becoming priests, something they argue would go against 2,000 years of Church tradition. But scholars have pointed out historical evidence suggesting that women did serve as deacons in the early Church. Cardinal Tarcisio Isao Kikuchi of Tokyo recently said he personally sees nothing wrong with ordaining women as deacons. But even he admits there are still many challenges to overcome before that could become a reality. What about married priests? In many countries, there's a serious shortage of priests. Back in 2019, a church summit proposed allowing married men to serve as priests in the Amazon region. This idea was seen as revolutionary, but in 2020, Pope Francis said the Church wasn't ready for that step. He asked for more time, disappointing some who believed he would be a pope of radical change. On the subject of divorce, Francis also took a compassionate stance. He encouraged priests not to treat divorced and remarried Catholics like outcasts. He opened the door to conversation about allowing them to receive communion, even without a formal annulment of their previous marriage. Though he didn't change church law, he urged a more welcoming approach. These people are not excommunicated, he said. The Church is a mother, and she seeks the good and salvation of all her children. When it comes to sexual orientation, Pope Francis made headlines in 2023 by allowing priests to bless same-sex couples, though he still held firm that marriage is only between a man and a woman. This decision was met with outrage from some conservative church leaders, especially in Africa and parts of North America. But Francis stood by it. In regions where homosexuality is criminalized, he emphasized the need to protect people from harm and allowed local bishops to decide how to proceed based on safety concerns. He called for understanding, patience, and, above all, compassion. Now let's talk about one of the most painful topics in church history: sexual abuse. Despite efforts by the Vatican to address the crisis, many survivors and advocates say much more needs to be done. They argue that the mindset in many parishes has not changed enough to ensure abuse never happens again. The Vatican recently released a statement calling sexual abuse a wound that must remain open, so that the Church continues to seek healing and justice. While major revelations have come from the US, Australia, and Europe, experts say many parts of Asia, Africa, and Latin America have yet to fully uncover the scope of abuse, meaning the issue is far from over. Finally, let's look at the global shift happening within the Church. Today, the Catholic Church is growing fastest in Africa and Asia. As the cardinals gather to choose the next pope, many are asking, should the new leader come from one of these regions? Whether or not that happens, the next pope will face a church that's more diverse than ever. With cultures, traditions, and spiritual backgrounds varying widely, the Church must find ways to unify its people, while respecting their differences. Nora Kofagnadara Nantera, a theological ethicist in Ghana, puts it plainly: the next pope must be someone who speaks to the injustice between the global north and global south, and he must be ready to listen to the voices of young people who are demanding answers and engagement. The Catholic Church stands at a moment of transformation. What direction it takes, and who will lead it, is about to be decided. Thanks for watching Fresh Talk News Channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth news and updates from around the world.